Gentlemen, have you had a chance to look at the agenda? Any questions, concerns about it?
On the consent agenda, I'd like to remove item A1 under appropriations for discussion and actions for commission.
All right, Gary?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of A, appropriations, number 1?
I make a motion we approve the agenda with the modifications so mentioned.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So the next item would be, gentlemen, do we want to move that to ahead of item A on items for commission action?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
That'd be fine? Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so we're looking at item 3, presentation.
The consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda minus item A1.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, got ahead of myself. All right, now we're looking at item number 3. Presentation, A, recognition of Spencer Toomey for assisting at the scene of a structure fire. Chief Harrison?
Step forward, please. Gentlemen, this is Spencer Toomey, and we're recognizing him tonight because one of my sergeants, Sergeant Dustin Taylor, responded to a structure fire, and he was doing what police officers do at structure fires. And Mr. Toomey helped by knocking on doors and alerting residents in neighboring homes. We do that in case a fire should spread. And at one point, while they were working, a hose got hung up on a fence, and Mr. Toomey took it upon himself to move that hose. And so whenever people help us, I think they deserve our thanks, and I think it represents the trust and the strong relationship that our community has with our first responders. So, Mr. Toomey, I have a letter here for you, and I just want to personally thank you for helping the folks that I work with out and the firefighters as well, and especially the people that were who lost their belongings and property that evening. And I really appreciate you going out of your way and taking the time to do that.
I would like to commend you, young man, for stepping up and helping out in a society to where we have people that are more interested in filming an event rather than helping out and not wanting to get involved. That speaks highly of you. And we're all in agreement here. We're very proud you stepped up. You saw a need. You helped in. And kudos to you. Thank you for stepping up and doing the right thing. We don't see that very often anymore. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right. Item number 4, public hearings. A public hearing to consider condemnation of 301 North 11th Street as dangerous and unsafe. Okay, David?
Mayor Don's welcoming a new grandbaby, so he's on vacation this week, so
Okay.
filling in for him. 301 North 11, as you remember, Mayor, the lady presented the last time and they were going to start work. I'm happy to report to you that they've placed a new roof on the structure, and they're finishing up some stuff on the outside, and they should be moving to the inside shortly. Therefore, Don would like to recommend a 60-day extension. I do not know if anybody's here because we did inform her that we were just going to request an extension of the public hearing.
Okay. I'll open it up for a public hearing. Is there anyone here representing the people that are involved in the repairs on this house or have an interest or part of the community in the vicinity of 301 North 11th? Anyone? All right, then I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, we'll open this up for commission discussion.
Sounds like great news.
No, I'm in favor of giving an extension. That'd be fine. Sounds good.
Thank you. I happened to go by when they were actually repairing the roof, so I'm glad to see the house is well on its way to being fixed and being occupied again. So do I have a motion concerning 301 North 11th?
I'll move that 417, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
301.
sorry. I move to adjourn the public hearing for 301 North 11th for 60 days or April 25th, 2019.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item B, a public hearing to consider condemnation of 417 South 6th Street as dangerous and unsafe. David?
Mayor, I believe they said they were going to be here. I do not know. They informed Don their intention was to repair. They have relocated. Don did inform them that they really needed to be here and discuss that with you. I do not know if they are. And we were going to let them discuss that with you. Our recommendation would be to work with them if that's what they were willing to do, but I'm not
Okay.
sure if they're here or not.
Well, we'll open it up for public hearing. Anyone here representing 417 South 6th Street? Or anyone in the neighborhood of that address that has some concerns about this? All right, we'll close the public hearing. We'll open it up for commissioner discussion. Gentlemen?
Well, again, like I mentioned last time, if the shoring is adequate to support the structure, I think if we can work with them, we're better off in the long run. The house is stable then, and you know, when you look at it, really classified as dangerous and unsafe, that removes that stipulation. Of course, you know, temporary is temporary, but if we can work with them, I'm in favor of going along with that recommendation.
I'd probably suggest let Don get back and let's give them 30 days. And Don really emphasized that they need to come in here and visit with you guys and give us a plan. I don't think we receive a plan in their timeline either.
Yeah, and even if they'll work with Don.
Right,
I know
yeah, I
there's a
agree.
lot of intimidation for people to
Yeah, I
come,
understand. Yeah.
but as long as they start a dialogue
Yeah.
with Don.
Which when Don called them before he left, they said their intention was to try to fix it. I think they're just trying to figure out the financing.
Was that the main
Yeah.
concern with the house about the foundation?
Yes.
Primarily?
Yes.
And that was the main issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if they're looking at financing, once we condemn it,
Correct.
they can't use
Yeah.
the residents for any collateral for a loan too.
Right. I agree.
So,
Okay, Gary?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Absolutely.
right, so let's adjourn this for 30 days. So do I have a motion for 417 South 6th Street to adjourn for 30 days, which would be, what date would that be? 30 days from now? March 28th? March 28th, do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Items for commission action. Let's go back to the appropriations. A, number 1. Okay, this concerns ADA improvement.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to join the audience to discuss this or leave the room, whatever you gentlemen are more comfortable with, since it involves me and a check made out to me.
Okay.
Do you have a preference?
You can,
I'll leave that up to you, what you feel comfortable doing.
you can join.
I'll go sit with your wife.
Okay? Okay. Ask her what we're having later. Okay. All right, this concerns an ADA improvement that was made at the, well, I call it the old Daylight Donut, but it's now Laurel Street Bakery where there's at. And I'd asked for some information about a reimbursable expense for an improvement that had been made to that facility. And I've gotten some information here that I've had a chance to read part of it, going through it, that I was having just a little bit of problem understanding what we're actually trying to attempt to do. It sounds like some of these improvements that were made have been done, that they were based on a complaint where ADA improvements have been made, and that they were covered by money out of the ADA fund per a settlement agreement with ADA in the past. And my question is that does the improvement to this ramp that was put in, does it actually meet the standards of the ADA? In other words, is it built to compliance and it meets the standards that the ADA requires? That's my question.
I can't give you a technical answer, and I'll let Dave address that. But just a little background, of course, Commissioner Hogsett redid that building. He put the ramp in his own expense after we told him we needed to have ADA access. And then he came, just said, hey, seems like I heard there was a program that the city would pay for those things in the downtown area. And my first response was, I didn't think so. I'd check. And I actually told him no. And then further research through Dave, I found that in our agreement with DOJ that, yeah, we would address those issues. So I'll let Dave take it from there and kind of give you the detail on this one. Again, this was after the fact. Commissioner Hogsett had already put it into the building,
Right.
and it came to light, so we'll do that.
All right.
And I've struggled with this too. As I became ADA coordinator, I've addressed this. Annie Mae's sidewalks, and So I just went to the DOJ and said, help me with this, help me get an understanding of this. And they took me right back to the 2017 transition agreement that the city has agreed to with the DOJ, and we all signed off. And specifically, the letter Mr. Royce wrote, the area in question does have a slope issue. It's not a critical issue. However, we informed the DOJ that we would make accommodations as a significant barrier. And the DOJ reminded me, the sidewalk is ours, downtown. We own that. We made some critical mistakes, and I think we all know that way back when in the downtown. So it's our responsibilities to accommodate, to ensure people get into businesses. Mr. Royce made that very clear in his letter to him as we presented our plan, that we would, in lieu of just having to go down there and spend $2 million right now and fix everything, as sidewalks deteriorated, we'd go back and fix the slopes, but that we would make accommodations to businesses with ramps to get people in them, and then wait for those sidewalks to deteriorate over time. And, whether that's 5-10 years down the road when we eventually have to go and fix those sidewalks because they become a hazard, it's just time, weather, and all those conditions. So, we reviewed this, we went over it, and they agreed with our assessment that this was a reimbursable expense per the ADA accommodations for the downtown.
Seems like, I think our responsibility is the accessible route of the sidewalk. Access into the building is the building owner's. with what was sent to the DOJ concerning cross slopes, that was different than a vertical distance of, more than a couple inches. When I looked at the letter that was written, when you're addressing a cross slope and a ramp, I would assume something that could be worked in at a doorway with a few inches here or there, a small area, not an actual structure. The Annie Mae's was providing an accessible route from the parking lot. It wasn't providing access to their building. Their building still has ADA issues. and
Still
that
has,
should
yes,
be-
you are correct.
It should be their responsibility to accommodate. In this, when we look at the costs, there's other buildings with similar situations, and I think actually the access into the building is the building owners. We have to comply with the accessible route and cross slope with the sidewalk within reason to the building, but when it comes to the actual ramp, I think that's the building owner's responsibility to comply, and usually it only takes effect when, as in this case, a change of ownership or a change of use, a major remodeling. 'Cause we've got other buildings that are similar, and we're not mandated to make all of them accessible. So that was my
I asked those
concern.
questions, Leonard, because that was my concern too. And I mean, you're probably not going to like the response, but it's like what I put in there. He said, we're responsible to get them in. And he
I
said,
disagree
that probably goes to lawyers. I mean, and
Did they do that in writing?
like I told you, what he told me was, when we get the complaint, we'll then address it with you. His recommendation to us, he said, David, he said, do what's right, accommodate the people, get them in, take care of your downtown, and you're not going to have a problem. And he said, when a complaint comes, kind of like the email I responded to Kelly with said, we're going to look at what the transition plan you and we agreed to, what the letter said, and then we'll make our decision. And as you know, then it's between lawyers and courts. And I mean, it's a decision you guys have to make. I'm just trying to make a good decision, did my best to make a good decision, present it.
I understand.
Yeah, and
I understand
I mean,
that.
ultimately, that's what you guys get paid the big bucks for, to make the
Yeah.
decision.
Well, see, a person can't complain to the city that they can't get in a building. It's not our responsibility to maintain them to get into the building. We can have a complaint on a cross slope that as I'm going parallel to the buildings, I end up in the curb.
Well, I think that's what kind of has us, as I talked to him, our issue here, there is a cross slope issue. It's not a critical one, but ultimately, that's a sidewalk we have to replace.
But the issue is getting into the building,
Right.
that even if the cross slope was correct, you couldn't get into the building.
Yeah.
We don't have to correct the cross slope to provide access into that building of 16 inches.
Yeah.
And so no complaint can come to the city saying that you have to fix access into that building, because that's not our building, that's not our responsibility. Because then it comes to a complaint that if the door swings the wrong way, if the clearance beside each door, the door is not proper, the pull of the door, then does that come to the owner? We are responsible for the sidewalk, but not access into the building. And that's my problem of seeing the distance, in this case, of the vertical entrance, and correcting a cross slope wouldn't correct access into the building. And that was primarily the context of the letter, was addressing cross slopes of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it's saying if we correct the slope of the sidewalk and it creates a problem, or if there's a problem with the cross slope, but it's not intended to handle a major issue of accessibility. I think that goes with the building ownership.
Like I say, I mean, I addressed it to him. He
Mhm.
told me it was our responsibility, but like he said, we won't react until we receive a complaint, and then
But
we'll
it-
notify you.
A citizen can't make a complaint to you on accessing a building.
No, to him. He said they would respond when they received a complaint from the DOJ.
Yeah, and then it goes
DOJ.
back to the owner.
Yeah.
But even at that, there's reasonable accommodations until it was remodeled.
Right. I'm like I said, I'm just going. I put in there exactly what he told me. It was his opinion, reading everything, the sidewalks and getting people we
I know.
own, and that's why we try to work with everybody with all those things, like you said, when it comes to that, and
Yeah, and even, the entrance or the curb ramp we put at the therapy,
yeah,
that wasn't for them, that was to make that section of parking compliant.
Yeah.
Only when we did it, we located it for their benefit too. Since it was required, it wasn't
Yeah.
an additional
Yeah.
specific to them. And the same on 8th Street, that bank of parking required a handicap ramp. We just accommodated it to their entrance, so it wasn't a specific addressing their accessibility.
yeah.
So, that's,
Go ahead, Jeff.
May I ask him a question?
Yes.
Because I'm unclear. David, back when we did this streetscape project and put those sidewalks in, I guess had it been done correctly, should we have put a ramp in at that time? Or would that have been the owner's responsibility at that time? Not today, but at that time?
See, and that's where, and Kelly, we really struggled as staff, because streetscape was done at a split with owners and the city, and when you talk to the DOJ about all of this now that there was a complaint, we entered into a settlement agreement. And we own, as he told me, you own the downtown streets, the parking, sidewalks, and getting people in. He said, you guys agreed to that. And even though but as he said, we will not respond unless we receive a complaint. Then we will notify you and begin the process.
but that's the thing, the complaint cannot be made to the city on accessing a building.
Yeah.
But they can to the DOJ, and that's, I think, how this whole thing started originally. I want to kind of take a different view of things here. When you start looking at the downtown specifically, as I've been talking with staff over the last few weeks, everything we do is economic development. And I don't want to get into the technicalities. You're more versed in that than I am. I want to come from an angle of, can we help the downtown redo these buildings? If we can assist in that, and maybe on a technicality, we're right or wrong, I think, like I said, the first time I heard about it, no, it's not our responsibility. But the more I think about it, looking at that, because we got another building coming up that we would be doing the same thing. If a past building never knew about it or didn't know about it, they could certainly ask us. But I look at it as enticing, it's giving an incentive, whatever you want to call it, in helping somebody redo these downtown buildings. Because the more we can get those done, especially, and this is only for the downtown area we're talking about. There's a finite map. It's not like throughout the city. So that's just a different kind of look at it, whether you want to do that or not. And we have some ADA money to do that. So I would recommend we do that and continue that program in the spirit of the DOJ, the spirit of the ADA.
Well, the public purpose doctrine also talks about public funds using for the benefit of an individual as opposed to the general public. It's a little sketchier when you go into providing a benefit for one individual as opposed to the full community. But I think when we look at our obligation, it's in the street. We have limited money. And ours is to provide access on the sidewalks and the parking areas. When we come to providing access in, it's good if we have money, but our money is limited. And that's the point of where do we draw the line?
Yeah, where's the best way to spend it? Where's the best, you know,
But we've got a limited source, and when we go beyond our general handicap curb ramps or accessible routes, then we postpone all that. And I just see that from what the initial consent agreement we had didn't address access into the buildings. Particularly, a complaint can't be made of accessing a building to the city. It's not the city's responsibility to provide accessibility within buildings. The line should be at the property line and the face of the building. You know, I would love to be able to go to every building downtown that has an offset between sidewalk and finished floor and do something for them to help them out, but we can't. We've got to look at what is our limit, and I think our limit is concerning correcting the sidewalks and the cross slopes and making our own buildings accessible. I think we've just got to set a limit. It's not an untapped resource that we have.
Certainly.
So that was my I guess if you want to say problem or the concern I had with authorizing this payment. I just,
I'm talking
can't
about
support it.
buildings that are vacant, buildings that are being totally redone, reused, not just, existing now. I mean, there's, like you say, there's probably other buildings out there but I'm talking about, hey, this building's been sitting vacant for how many years, and that if that helps it get redone from downtown, that's a plus for the downtown, and I think the payback would be there. But again, that's,
Yeah, and I think in looking at.
I agree, there's limited resources, obviously, and where is the best place to spend the money?
Yeah, and I think it's got to be our policy. We have to establish a policy on how to address this, and the DOJ consent agreement, that was not included to provide access into the building. We look at our letter, and it's mainly addressing cross slopes, and the cross slope isn't.
That's,
When you get to the magnitude of the vertical offset at some of the locations, the Laurel Street Bakery, 122 West Myrtle, the professional building, some of those, we can't go in and do them all. I think we have to stay focused on our part, that the intent when we issued the cross slope was not relating to accessing a building. It was addressing cross slope and anything we created because of the cross slope.
but we know if somebody files a complaint with the DOJ,
But the
it'll be worse off
DOJ,
for us
the
at that point.
DOJ will not cite the city for access to a building. We
I
can't
can't
be
speak for
worried.
the DOJ.
We can't be worried about a complaint going to a building owner. That's not our area of concern to address that issue. They cannot file a complaint against the city on accessing a private building. Public buildings they can.
I mean, David is the one that called the DOJ and talked to him. I didn't, but maybe you have him clarify it. The way I understood David to say it was that had this improvement not been made, and let's say there's a business there with steps, and had somebody filed a complaint, I get the impression the DOJ looks at it not as an issue of slope or verticality. They look at it as whether or not it's an accommodation issue, and that they would honor the complaint and make it be addressed.
But
Now, that's moot because, you know, it's been fixed and he's coming to us after the fact, so there'll never be a complaint there because it's fixed.
except
But-
the cross slope of the sidewalk.
Well, see, you're getting technical. I think cross slopes and verticality are sub-issues to the issue of accommodation. You're
Well, the
talking about
ADA
is an
the
accommodation.
is technicalities because it's limited
Well-
on percentages of slope
I think you're
and
losing.
sizes.
But I think the big issue is accommodation. That's the issue. And I just feel that had a complaint been made before it got fixed, based on what Dave says, DOJ would say, fix it. Well,
Well,
he can correct me if I'm wrong.
that's where I disagree that the complaint would come to the city. It's the responsibility of the property owners to provide accessibility to their buildings.
That's my question, because initially when the building was bought, that at some point a determination was made that due to the remodeling of the building, that there would have to be a ramp put in for customers to be able to have access to the store. So that would be something that if I had bought, and I would consider that would be the cost, along with making sure that the building met code, that the plumbing and the electrical was all brought up to code, was all part of the process of doing business here within the city. So to me, that seems to be the responsibility of the building owner, because he has to provide access to the public that are coming to visit and be in that establishment. So that's part of the cost of doing business. So he's put this in, and then it's come to us now that, well, it's already in, but there is some debate here whether this is a reimbursable expense or not. So, and I understand both sides of this.
I think if you have any questions, you ought to talk to the DOJ direct or something, because I hear one thing and then I hear another thing. I don't think we can substitute our opinions for what the DOJ thinks. They think what they think. The problem is there'll never be a complaint here because the work's already done. So
Right.
the easy out is to say, oh, the work's already done, there'll never be a complaint, don't pay it. But had the work not been done, had a complaint been filed, would the DOJ have made the city address it? That's the question, I think. Because there may be another building in town with the exact same scenario, and a complaint is made. And then if you say, hey, we're not gonna touch it, DOJ said, oh, yes, you are, then where are we? So I think you ought to.
So maybe we're looking at something in writing, some clarification from the DOJ.
If they'll give it.
The DOJ won't issue
I
written
don't- they won't give advisory
opinions.
opinions.
He referred me back to the pictures we submitted, the letter. I mean, we have in there, if you look in our settlement agreement, we have ramps similar to that, different designs that we said we would do downtown to address these issues. And he said, David, it is very clear to me, you guys accepted this responsibility. But as they do not get involved, and Linda's correct, they will not make a decision unless somebody files a complaint. And, I mean, that's all I can go by, Mayor. I mean, I'm just being truthful and honest. You know, we looked into it. He said, all I can tell you is it's a sound decision. He said, always look at taking care of people in need. And in your downtown area, that is a very important thing. He said, you never go wrong doing the right thing and helping people. So that's all I could. I mean, it's a tough decision. I mean, it's your guys' decision.
Well, I understand that. If we go forward with this and reimburse the expenses for this, then that puts us on the hook for improvements for all the buildings in the downtown area, anything that would come up, that now becomes responsibility of the city. And look at the number of buildings we have here in downtown. I'm still still debating where the responsibility ends and where the owner responsibility begins. That's where I'm still struggling with on this. It opens us up to a lot more expenses down the road if we are going to accommodate all the downtown businesses as they come up for being changeover, ownership.
That's the policy I think you should look at is, again, from an economic development standpoint, not just going and say, we got to do every building in the downtown or in that outlined area that we were under order by the DOJ, but if somebody's going to come in and spend $150,000 or something to redo a building and bring a business downtown, to me, it's just another incentive, but not, so you're narrowing the focus in terms of what that money would be used for, not just, well, let's go fix every access in the downtown. That's not our responsibility, but from an economic development standpoint, to use some of the ADA money to help with that, incentivize that a business to come in and do that, I think it's, again, what's the priority? Where do you put your money to get the best use of that? So that's what I'm saying. Policy would be narrowed, and it wouldn't be say, oh, we got to fix everybody's entrance. It would be narrowed into that.
Right, I understand that,
Economic
but as those issues come up, then we've already set the standard that.
Right, we've
that
set a policy.
We set a
to say,
policy, so
we will assist
as they
you,
continue to come up, then.
And instead of giving them tax breaks, they get this break, or there's some other way of doing it, but.
I think if you're going to give economic development incentives, then it's set at a certain value or level, and it's up to them to decide how to spend it. Because with the special use sales tax, it was presented that it was general accessibility to the community as a whole to make city facilities comply, and streets and roads that have been constructed without accessibility on the ramps. It wasn't to bring up private property accessible. I still think our obligation downtown is the public ways, the streets, the walks, access into the building
Yeah, I
is
don't disagree with that.
to the
certainly.
building owner. And, with that, I look at longevity with the decision that I can't approve the authorization of payment on that item.
With the ADA policy and what it was initially said and addressed at, to me, I think what Leonard had covered as far as sidewalks and streets and ramps so people could have accessibility throughout the downtown and throughout the city, not just strictly the downtown. So whether this should come out of ADA funds, maybe this is something should
Well, I
be.
don't think it's at all the city's responsibility. It shouldn't come out of any city fund.
Okay.
Well, it shouldn't come out of economic development unless we have an actual program that identifies and it's accessible to every store. Every property owner has the same access to the funds. With public money, we can't limit people's access to the money. We can't pick and choose. We can't say it's got to be all. You know, it's just something we can't do. And now to come up with a plan of how we can offer economic development money, you know, this is bad timing. Yeah, it's just like our neighborhood revitalization plan for downtown. It has to be applied for prior to the start of work. There's been people that have not been aware of it and have remodeled buildings, residents, and lost that advantage. You just have to have these things in place, and I don't think for the ADA money and the ADA funds that this is appropriate for that. It's not the city's responsibility to provide accessibility within a building. It's up to the front door. But if, you know, it's the same way, if it's greater than a ½ inch, then the building's not accessible. So a threshold, if that puts a barrier up, but, you know, I think I've expressed my thought.
Okay. Well, like I said, this has been a learning experience for me. It always is every day. I'm inclined to go along with the fact that that is the owner's responsibility to bring the building up to code, electric, plumbing, whatever is involved in that. And when you purchase that building, you realize that there are some modifications that need to be made for accessibility to the building entrance into property that you own into that store. So I'm inclined to go along with that same reasoning. That I think that's just the way it is. It just sets us up for so many other issues that are going to happen by deviating from that. And as much as it would be nice to be accommodating everything that comes before us, there's just certain things that sometimes government just doesn't have the answer for. Sometimes it's left to the responsibility of the individual. So that's my understanding on this. So at this point, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we authorize payment of the appropriations with the exception of I thought I had that number.
$120.
The $12,120 relating to the installation of the handicap ramp at the Laurel Street Bakery.
Okay. Kelly, would you read that back again, please?
I make a motion that we authorize payment of the appropriations with the exception of $12,120 relating to the installation of the handicap ramp at the West Laurel Bakery.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry about that, everybody. I didn't mean to cause that delay.
No problem. All right, we're now items for commission action. A, consider approving a request for electronic signs in the C3 Central Business District from the United Methodist Church to be located at 200 South Pennsylvania Avenue and 111th East Maple Street.
Mayor Vic Gorman is here representing the applicant. So Vic, if you could come forward, please.
All right, Mr. Gorman, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here. My name's Vic Gorman. I am representing the First United Methodist Church, but first I want to say a thank you to the city. I have a son that has a disability, and I appreciate the ramp at the Advanced Physical Therapy location in the middle of that block. That's we call that Jason's ramp, to be honest with you, because it was something that we needed desperately, and I appreciate the help. And also, I appreciate Mr. Hogshead's ramp at Laurel Street Bakery. We will support businesses that accommodate folks with disabilities. It's very much appreciated. What we're doing at the First United Methodist Church, we currently have an existing monument sign. It is deteriorated. The congregation is, for the most part, feels like it is not doing a good job of communicating information, so we are proposing to replace the existing sign with an electronic sign. And I believe Kelly said you have some packets that have a little bit of information. Maybe that's what's on the display right now. I'm not sure.
Yes.
The company that we've chosen to do this for us is Vision Tech out of Springfield, Missouri. If their product is anything close to their customer service, we're going to have a really good sign there at the church. This sign will be a very conservative sign. It's not going to be an active sign. It's going to promote hours of our services, our website for the church, our office hours, things of that nature. It's not going to be something that I call an attractive nuisance. It's not going to be bright lights and displays of that nature. It's going to be for information pertaining to the sanctuary. The task of our trustees at the church is, if this is approved, is to install a sign that complements a 105-year-old sanctuary. And that's something we feel very strongly about. We have visited with, we do have some residential customers that are close to the church, even though we're C3 and they are also. We have visited with them, and we've assured them that we're going to work with them to make sure that they're pleased with what we're doing and it's not a nuisance to them in any way. There is information in your packet, I believe, that talks about how we are abiding by the ordinances as far as the amount of light that's being put out on those signs, and we will again accommodate our neighbors and put it in what we call sleep mode after hours, so it won't be something that would be offensive to them. It will be in the same location as our existing sign. It is one-sided. It will not light up anything other than the front of the sign. And I do have, I've got a little bit better of a picture of that. I don't think it was included in your packet, but this actually shows what our committee put together in a Photoshop. If I could approach the bench.
Sure. Put your bench. Yes.
That gives you, that gives you a more accurate picture. What you're seeing in the display right now is computer generated by our contractors that are putting this proposal together. This is a Photoshop of exactly what our committee put together. We've worked on this for several years. We want something that will enhance the aesthetics of our sanctuary. That is the monument sign. The second sign is for our Wesley Center. Our Wesley Center is a very active center. Right now, we are promoting different activities at the Wesley Center by the use of vinyl banners. So this will be a huge improvement over that. This sign is also, it's fairly small, but we are going to try to get as much information through this sign as we can. I made a quick list of just a few of the things. I have a calendar of our Wesley Center that go on there. We have our church functions, which is our preschool, is in the Wesley Center. We have our praise band and the contemporary service that also use our Wesley Center for their activities. But outside of that, this is just a few of the community functions that go on in the Wesley Center. We have the Boy Scouts. They hold their regular meetings or district meetings there, their campouts there. Their Pinewood Derbies are held there. Our Lions Club Bean Feed, I'll give them a little promotion. That's coming up this Saturday. We have the Lifeline Screening, Red Cross Blood Drive, the free shoe giveaway for our kids, Women of Independence Arts and Crafts Fair, the Kansas Family, Community Thanksgiving Dinner, our Quest 4 County Summer Program. The list goes on and on. So this sign is going to let the community know a little bit about what's going on in our facilities and in our church. We're really excited about this. This is something that, again, we've been using vinyl banners for quite some times on this. So this is going to be more of an active sign. But our customers that would be in direct view of this would be, I say our customers, I'm still back at the electric company, but would be Potts Funeral Home, the parking lot. There really wouldn't be anyone that should be offended or distracted by this sign. But We are going to be approaching the zoning commission, planning and zoning commission, because we do fall outside of the 20% guidelines. We did that because we wanted a sign that the electronics were going to be very visible. These are not real high signs. They're pretty much at eye level for the most part. So we wanted good visibility, but we didn't want a huge sign. We didn't want to take away from either of our facilities. So the monument sign at the sanctuary is, the guidelines are 20% of the overall sign should be the electronic portions. We're 28% on the memorial sign and 38% on our Wesley activity sign. So we will be approaching those folks with, and I've got the documentation here tonight for them to ask for a variance on that percentage of the electronic portion of our signs. So, any questions or anything I could answer for you?
The signs look nice.
They do look
They
good.
look very good, and they'll definitely be,
Going to leave the Baptists and the Presbyterians in the dust. I mean, I know they'll be in here next month. And then keep up with the Methodists.
yeah,
We got to
Very good.
We've been doing quite a bit at our church, and we're very proud of. We have over $500,000 in stained glass windows at our church, and we have started our phase 2 of redoing all of those windows, and we backlight them now. So again, we're not going to put something out there that's going to take away from the historical value or the aesthetics of our building. So I give you my word, these will be very nice signs. We wouldn't have it any other way.
all right. Gentlemen?
So the increase of size over 20%, percentages are kind of vague. And you said 28, 8% more. You're really not increasing the size from what was allowed in your variance considerable, are you?
No,
Just a
no.
few inches, basically.
No, and we could have accommodated the 20%, but again, it would have created a larger sign, and that was not
Yeah.
what we wanted.
Well, your signs, they don't seem out of scale, and of course outside they're going to look smaller than,
Right.
I think the Wesleyan is what, 8 feet tall and 6'5" wide,
Right.
and the main sign is what, a little over 13 feet, including the base,
Right.
and 7'9", so.
It's about a 1.5 taller than the existing sign and about 4
Yeah.
foot longer than the existing sign we have now.
Yeah,
And the sign we do have now, it is lit. It has LED lights in it, down lights that go on all night. But again, our goal was to make that a conservative sign, informational sign. It's not to be, kids eat free on Friday night kind of a thing. It's going to be a respectful sign that respects and goes along with our facilities.
yeah. Okay.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
No.
I think it's a good deal. Mr. Gorman, thank you very much for your presentation. Long time no see.
You too. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ready. If there's not any further questions, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the request for electronic signs in the Central Business District from the United Methodist Church at 200 South Pennsylvania Avenue and 111 East Maple Street.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item B. Consider approving the recommendation from the Park Board to increase the miniature train, miniature golf, and building rental rates. Barb, Jim?
Good evening.
Yes.
At the January 7th Park Board meeting, the Park Board agreed on raising the following rates. And I basically went through and on your RCA, the background information, I went back and used what we did last year and figured out what the difference would be if we had the same usage as last year. That would basically be a $36,000 increase in revenue for the park. Basically, every commission meeting I come to, we always say we don't want to raise taxes. We need to find out ways of paying for things. This is our kind of little way of doing it because we feel that the rates are very low now, and I've gone out and talked to the public, and it was the park board that brought it up. Believe it or not, it wasn't me on this, and I surely did agree to it. But, you know, the train being at a quarter, you know, going up to 50 cents, it's minimal, you know. Golf, where can you play a game of golf for $2, you know, from $1 to $2? Our building rates, I went and I researched the buildings in other communities. Some were a little lower, some higher. But we have the facilities, we have the train, we have the carousel, we have a zoo there. And the park board recommended to raise the 4-H building from $70 to $100. The middle open building rents for $10, $10. And we wanted to keep both open buildings the same. So we increased the middle open building to the same as the east open 4-H building. Then the shelter house and the Lone Chief, they get rented considerably, a lot. The Lone Chief, you know, has heat that is increasing, and we provide wood for both buildings, cut wood and the labor on that. And we just felt that $50. Basically, when I tell people what our buildings are, they can't believe they're so cheap. That is I actually helped at the ticket booth when someone couldn't come in, and a gentleman from out of town said, "You know, you're not making any money off of this." And I said, "We're not even breaking even, if you really want to know." So yes, I do know that. So we're not out here to make a profit, but we sure would like to cover some of our costs because a lot of the people that utilize the park come from out of town. So why not let them help us pay for our park instead of the taxpayers constantly having to foot the bill? So there's where we're coming from, and they're happy to do that. I have not heard anybody say when I say, "Hey, if I raise the train from $0.25 to 50 cents, will you not ride it?" Heck no, you know. So that's our recommendation. Do you have anything to say?
Everything she said sounds good.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think the rates have always been extremely low, and this will help us maintain some of these facilities by this increase. And you did a good job of presenting other area towns and what the rental fees on various buildings that they have. So that was a good job. You gave us a chance to compare what other communities are charging, and I think these are well within reason. The fact that what got me was that the repair of the carousel was $36,000, and that this increase in the prices that you've indicated here will generate $36,000. So you know, that money could have been used to make improvements on that carousel. So I like what you presented.
I wonder,
The carousel at a nickel hasn't changed.
Oh, yeah.
We're keeping that still at a nickel.
Actually, I put a donation box, if you guys
Yeah.
don't know that, at the
Yeah.
carousel.
And
And,
the
you know, we
train.
have 10s, 5s, and 20s put in there. So
And
they're
nickels.
supportive.
I just wonder, looking at the building rate increase, that I think we need to look at the charges we had, and I see in agreement with the rate increase. My thought about the train and the golf, you know, basically what you're trying to do is raise rates to increase a little more money coming in. But, you know, you can do the same by leaving the miniature train and the golf at the same rate, just raise the building rate a little more. Because, you know, some families, yeah, an extra dollar, an extra quarter is not a problem, but it's kind of the novelty of riding the train for 25 cents. And if you're trying to raise revenue to offset some other costs, why don't you put it in the building and then supplement the kids that might not have access to money, or a large family that they can ride all day, you know, ride 4 times with $1 instead of twice with $1. We can get to the same place by increasing the building rates a little more and still keep golf, because you're not going to break even with your rate increase on what it costs to operate those. But, you know, I think the benefit to a family individually, if I'm going to rent a building, I'm going to pass a hat and everybody's going to chip in to the cost of that. When I take my grandkids, all 12 of them out there, that's all coming out of our pocket. And, you know, you look at a family with limited resource, I think we could do the same thing and allow them to stay at the existing price on golf and train, but cover the costs in the buildings.
And that's the commission's prerogative, you know, to decide. This just came from the park board. We hate to keep coming and showing you that we need money here, money there. We're just trying to, you know, pull in some of it on our own. And like say, the miniature golf and the train, it is really cheap.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but, you know, take into consideration kind of what we're saying too.
Yeah, you know, even you look at raising the middle open building to $30, or the shelter house $50. I mean, that could go up to 60, 75. Really, that big a building for $50? The same as Lone Chief Cabin, $50?
I totally agree.
So,
But, you know, we don't want to shock people either, you know.
well, I think you'll shock them more at 50 cents on a train.
No, I disagree, but
But, you know, you could generate more revenue increasing the shelter house $10 than the train. I don't know, that was just my thought of, you know, we hit people with increased water rate, sewer rate, trash rate, and the building is an easier way to recover that. You know, they'll pay $75 for the shelter house without thinking, or $60 for the shelter house, and we can do the same thing you're trying to do, and just kind of give back to the citizens by keeping the rides at the same rate. Just my thought,
the only
Commissioners.
thing that I can say with that, more local people rent the building, so you're getting the money out of the local people, you know, and you have a lot of people that come from out of town with the train and the golf. I just, you know, that's just the only thing I can see there is I'm trying to get the people that come from out of town to help, you know, help us with the park, because they're the ones, they utilize it a lot. But a lot of the local people are the ones that rent the building. They might have aunts and uncles come. I don't know. That's just another idea.
Yeah, I mean, you can structure these rates, different things. We don't have a target in mind when they did this. They weren't looking, well, we need $36,000. It's just that, I mean, 50 cents is still a novelty to ride a train to me, you know. I don't know what the tipping point is on that riding the train, whether, you know, decision to ride or not ride. But, you know, this is what the park board recommends, and I support it. But I will say 50 cents is still, and I'm even more, I mean, the miniature golf, I mean, I don't know where there's other miniature golf around here, but anyone I've known, it's like 5, 6, 7 or more bucks for 9 holes. Anyway, it's just my opinion.
What are your thoughts?
I'm good with what the board presented. I know they put a lot of thought in this. I remember Annie and I dating. On one of our early dates, we went and played miniature golf, and I swear it was like $3 a piece then, and that was 40 years ago. So I'm guessing this is a steal at $2 or $5 or whatever. So I'm perfectly good with all these. I think they could be raised more, but I'm happy going with what the.
Because remember, we
the
spent a
board
lot
has
of money on the
come up with.
train, and it's being covered by property tax. This is general fund money, so it's being, in general, property tax money goes towards this, as well as sales tax goes towards this. So, like Barb says, look at it as not a user fee, but people who use it a little more help supplement it. But again, it's just my opinion. You can do what y'all want.
I know when I've rented facilities in the past at, whether it was $40 or $50, it was in a building that was available, and I needed a facility, and you start looking around trying to rent a facility here in town. I know we're members of the church, but I know what our facility runs if you want to rent our facility, and it doesn't make any difference whether you're a member or a non-member. And these aren't going to cover the cost to operate the train or the miniature golf, but I myself, I think they're a reasonable cost. And maybe these costs here, if there's any adjustment down the road, maybe those costs will be, for lack of a term, I can't think of a term, not grandfathered in, but maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Like the carousel, it's a nickel, or you put a donation box out. Maybe hold these figures true, and then if there's any adjustment down the road, any small increment adjustments, maybe look at the building, and that's still a reasonable amount, and that's still a novelty. You can't buy a candy bar for 50 cents.
No, and our intent
you can't
is
buy
to have
Pop.
people utilize our
Sure,
facility.
sure.
And that's our whole intent.
Sure.
But we will also want to be able to, help pay for it too.
Sure, I understand. All right. That's it? No more?
So what we're doing tonight is voting just on raising the rates as published, and then you're going to come back with the ordinance for us to approve and sign?
Correct. I'll send it to Jeff for our ordinance, yes.
Yeah, because we didn't normally, well,
I didn't
this
know that,
has
so
an
I didn't
ordinance
send it.
in here for us to sign. So all we're doing tonight is
Right.
approving
The
the
rates.
rates. We're not approving the issuance of an ordinance.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so do I have a motion?
I move to approve the rate increases for the train, golf, and rental buildings as recommended by the park board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay? Okay. Majority, I couldn't hear. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item C. Consider amending city ordinance to prohibit discharge of fireworks within the fire limits, streets, city parks, city parking lots, or city-owned property, excluding the contracted commercial display. Okay, Barb, again, and Jim?
Again, this was also brought by at the same meeting. We had quite the meeting on January 7th at the Park Board. And it was brought up that the Park Board recommended that we prohibit any fireworks in the park and zoo, except for the commercial exhibit that is done on the 10 acres by the Hoofstock area. The reason being, in the history of it, in 2015, I came to the commission and asked for it to be taken away from, it was where you couldn't have it on the playground or you couldn't have it in the zoo, but anywhere else you could shoot fireworks in the park. That was a nightmare, being out the park. I don't know who all has been out there, but it was very dangerous, and so we recommended that we have it only on the oval. Well, I don't know if you've been out there. It's very scary, very scary. And so last year, a gentleman lost part of his hand We had several fires. It takes extra staff to keep everybody, trying to keep everybody safe. We have police and fire that has to spend extra time out there. And so I did some research because I said, okay, they want to do this, I'll do some research. And in that research, I went, and you've got a printout here of every town. And Chanute, I wrote it out. It's kind of wishy-washy what they allow and what they don't, but it looks like they might. Cherryville, I couldn't tell, so I called them. They came, and I read their ordinance, and they said, I guess we do allow it. She first told me no. I guess we do allow it, so they do. But every other city around, basically, they do not allow any fireworks in the parks, city parking lots, and city-owned property. So I also did more research, and up in Kansas City, there was 27 cities that this television station did for fireworks, and 22 of them do not allow them in their parks. My reasoning is the danger of it, the tearing up of our parks. I spend so much time and energy trying to keep them up, and then we allow people to come in and shoot fireworks, danger to structures, danger to people. And I've had several requests, and the park board is that we want to come out to the park, be able to sit down and relax and watch the fireworks display. And they all go to the other area, and then the few people that want to shoot them are around several people around the oval. And so from the recommendation from the park board, I did some research, and this is what I came up with.
Has the ordinance been marked up or modified yet, Jeff? So you're just asking for our input? Okay.
Yeah.
And then it'll come back on
get an
the agenda
ordinance,
for
right.
us to approve the ordinance. Okay. So right now, the only place fireworks are released is in the Oval.
That's the only
And
place
that's
is in the
basically,
oval.
you're saying now, let's take them out of the Oval too.
Take them out of our park.
Out of the
Tearing up our
Oval.
park.
That guy losing his hand, I mean, yeah, we're covered, but something worse could happen, and we don't need that.
Yeah, you
It's a
can't.
war zone there if you really could
Yeah.
drive by.
And actually, I don't know of any other place to allow them to do it that's safe, but the kids, they are at the parking area, they go across the street, scares me to death. I'm sorry, but it does. It really does.
I think with the density of the people and the consumer fireworks have increased in intensity in the last 15, 20 years, that there's really some issues of one falling over, going into the crowd. There are a lot of people in that area, so I just wanted to clarify. I thought it was only the Oval that we had allowed now, so we're basically going to take fireworks out of the park. Okay. I could see that we need to modify the ordinance to limit that.
Yep, I agree. I never shot fireworks in the Oval, but I remember being there when other people did, and you have fireworks that fall over, and they're shooting in your area where you're sitting trying to enjoy fireworks, and it does create a hazard for a lot of people. And fireworks, they have gotten more explosive. They've gotten bigger and louder, and I think that's, I agree with this. Get it out of the Oval and not have to contend with the damage that it causes, the cleanup, and the potential for something worse to happen, because it eventually will, given over time. So, yep. Okay.
I think that makes sense. I've been here 6 years, and I love the fireworks. About half the time I've been in the park, and half the time I've been over out on the street somewhere, like in the Mercy Fitness Center. And that's like a war zone, too. I mean, everybody's shooting fireworks all around you, which is, I find, very intimidating. But I don't know how you police all those areas to enforce it. but I think this is probably the right step to take.
My goal is maybe increase activity and do fun for Fourth of July activities, you know, games and stuff like that in the future instead of the fireworks.
Yeah, let them shoot their own stuff at home maybe before they come or something.
Okay, so,
On our motion, then we're really just approving the process to prepare an ordinance. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
all right.
So I make a motion that we authorize council to review and modify the ordinance as we've discussed and bring it back to the commission for approval.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda. D, consider awarding a bid for a mower for use at Mount Hope Cemetery. Again?
And this is my third and final. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, we went out for bid for a mower at the cemetery for a 48-inch. We used 48 inches and 72. We used more 48s to get in between the stones. You saw the breakdown there, and the reason why we're recommending the sandbagger. And I kind of went over the side, things that don't meet standards on the others. And I know that's a considerable amount difference, but in the long run, we feel that that amount difference is really cheaper because we actually have, let me get this printout, 5 Hustlers out there currently now. 2 years ago, we went out for bid and we were awarded a bid on a bad boy. We've had that bad boy out to the cemetery, and we had considerable breakdown. The brace on the back tires broke, causing the wheels to lean out. It happened twice. That had to be repaired. The push rod broke, and we had to get that repaired. And then it's leaking some 2050 motor oil that goes into the hydrostats. And the hydros aren't responding. So Jim got to the point you've got to have them working right. So he sent that over to the zoo because the zoo was needing a mower. So that mower got over to the zoo to use for a while. So we haven't had very much luck with them. All our Hustlers, we haven't had any problems. The only Hustler was the 72-inch, when it had 357.4 hours. That's how detailed Jim is. It was under warranty and an engine. They replaced the engine. Other than that, we have had no other repairs, just maintenance, regular oil changes, belts, and blades. They're very reliable. They're more productive. Jim, as you all know, has mowed that cemetery for years. And if anybody knows what kind of equipment to use, he does. So last year, we were awarded a Spartan. The Spartan currently has electrical issues. You have to put a code in it to start it, and then if it doesn't work, then you have to shake the wires to get it going. Just little things, okay? But the problem with the Spartan is the gas tanks on the side fan out, and the guys can't see the stones. I don't know if you've done it, but you're doing this and you're constantly looking over because you have to see the stones so you don't hit them. So we're having a big issue with the Spartan, and it only has 122 hours. And the reason it only has is because if we don't have a full staff, they all get to choose their mowers, and guess which ones they go to? They go to the Hustlers because they're reliable. They do the job. The lower cost, for any repair. And the other thing is all of the Hustlers' blades go together. I mean, they all have the same blades. They all have the same belts. So they can interchange and they can work on them. So that's some of our, the other thing is This Hustler has an auto parking brake, so when you take your arms out, it automatically brakes, and it's a safety issue. It's a good one for our people. The others, you have to put the brake on. So I think that's another kudos for that. So those are kind of some of my ideas why I feel that we to approve it. It's within budget, and I'm open up for questions if you have any. And I brought Jim along if you have any more detailed mower questions.
Do you have a replacement schedule that after so many hours you sell and then get a new one? 'Cause like on a fleet vehicle where you're trying to anticipate getting rid of them.
We've been trying to replace our 48s every 2 years. But since we got into the Hustlers, there's been many years where we just purchased one instead of two. So that's saying something.
So do you run them until they quit?
We've got some out there that's got 13 to 1,500 hours, and usually they're hand-me-downs. We've given them to the airport, the zoo, the park.
Okay.
Jim, it looks like you're injured. You didn't do that on one of our mowers, did you?
No,
Good, all right. Glad to hear that.
one of your weed eaters.
Shaking those wires on the spark all the time.
And you get good service from Sandbagger. They're just
Yes.
on the east end of town. and-
Yes.
And
How'd you get two bids within 25 cents of one another?
They're both Hustler dealers.
I saw that.
I'm really
25.
surprised you didn't go 25 cents lower.
Yeah, 10,025 cents.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, like I said, you use them continuously, pretty much, and you know a good product, and sometimes you pay a little bit more, but in this case, you get what you pay for. You get good service, you get longevity out of the item, you got good customer service and repair if you need it. The fact that they're all pretty much running identical parts is a plus, and that just the fact that they're low maintenance is one of the biggest selling points, because it's only good if it's running. If it's spending a third of its time down, then that's just something you don't have the ability to use and have access to use. So, and they're a good mower. It's one of the mowers I've looked at when I was considering buying one. So, all right, gentlemen, anything else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the bid from Sandbagger Golf and Turf in the amount of $10,749.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, item E, consider whether or not to move forward with the demolition of 606 Fountain.
Mayor, the gentleman from Morningstar Management is here to speak to you, and, just to recap, he came November 29th, asked you guys to give him 60 days. He's here tonight to talk to you. He was unable to be here last month, and he has proposal to you, and I'll let him speak to it. Don has kind of told me about it, but I'll just let him speak to you that. Don's recommendation is proceed. We do have a bid on it. We will be bringing you that bid next month for demolition of the property. But I'll let him speak to you
Okay,
guys.
open this up to public hearing.
It's not a public
Or,
hearing.
excuse me, sorry. Step forward, please. Are you the same gentleman that was here a couple of months ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Your name, please.
Paul Horvath, Horvath. Yes, I was here in November, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. As you know, it's been a long winter, and I have made some progress, but not as quickly as I'd like to. But I'll tell you what I am doing. The bribe to one of my sons, if you remember, I was bribing my sons. I'd give them a house if they moved back. and one of my sons is on his way back. I mean, literally, he's in Colorado, driving from California. So I want to deed that particular house to my son. And the reason being is I bought a number of houses at the tax sale, and I actually think that this is one of the better ones because it has a full foundation, and structurally it's sound. I don't want you to look at the other houses. But, and I'm decided, you know, I bought houses in Coffeyville too, and I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I have a clear plan that if I may approach you guys, I can show you a couple of things, but I'm actively trying to sell Coffeyville. I want to take that money and put it into the Independence houses because I feel that's the better thing to do. I have been negotiating with, may I?
Sure.
I have been negotiating with a couple of potential buyers, so I've got a major ad. I'll either sell them as a package or individually. I've also been advertising to hire, since I have a number of houses that I want to do work on, I'm trying to find somebody. I've not been very successful in getting the local roofers to give me a clear bid. I had one guy go out and he told me he bid it, but he never sent me the bid. So I just decided to hire somebody because I have more than one house I'd like to work on. So I'm negotiating with a few different people with roofing experience so that they can focus on a number of houses. And I've been negotiating with a particular gal that I'm hoping to hire, who her and her husband were running a roofing company. Unfortunately, he died, and so she's shut down the company, but trying to get her as an office assistant, but she has a lot of contacts in the state with roofers. I'm meeting with her again tomorrow. So, and in addition, I mean, we have cleaned up the exterior of the property. I mean, there was a lot of garbage, a lot of trash. That's all gone, excepting for some boards that I think we may be able to use. So, in summary, I'm still working on, I mean, the main factor is to get the building sealed up, and that's my number one goal. But in order to do that, I need to sell some properties and/or negotiate, trade a building elsewhere for work. And I'm working on that. And then once my son is here, he's going to move to the area. He'll spend more time down here and focus on not only this, but some other properties.
But you already live in Independence?
Me? I live in Lawrence.
Oh, thank you. Couldn't remember.
Yes. I don't know if you're aware, but the IRS tax law, if you have a home as a principal residence and live in there for 2 years, 2 out of 5 years, and then sell it, it's pretty much tax-free, any gain. So there's some definite incentive, like for my son, to live in the house for at least 2 years as his principal residence. And again, I know it's a blighted house. I mean, I have cleaned up the outside. I'm in communication with the neighbor. I'm developing a relationship with her. You know, the one immediately to the north who's most impacted by it. She's the one who gave me the name of her roofer. I know you want to see action, and I do too. So I'm taking these steps, and I think it'll fall into place.
How many properties did you say you bought at the auction?
Altogether, about 130. Most are vacant lots. Most are vacant lots. But there was about 22 houses in Coffeyville and about 7 or 8 in Independence, actual structures.
I just know I recently got 6 tax bills because I have 6 properties. I can't imagine having that many properties.
Well, that's why, I mean, I'm going to resolve this pretty quickly. Either,
I would think
you
so,
know,
yeah.
sell most of them, resell them, and then take that money and reinvest into the ones that I think are most worth investing in.
I consider it very admirable what you're attempting, but the reason they're typically sold at the tax sale is they're not worth much. So I hope you're able to get out of them what you think you can.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I'll have to say, number one, I bought them right. Number two, I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've taken on projects that other people have thought should have been
Let go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and admittedly, I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to know when to let go, but pretty much after 40 years, I mean, I have a pretty good idea. I can walk through a house and know whether it's, you know, whether it's got good bones, what I call good bones, and worth
Sure.
putting money into.
Gotcha.
I think this house is. If I didn't think it was, I would say, well, fine, you know, do it. I mean, but structurally, it's sound. And it's got nice lines.
It just gets awkward for us when we've started the demolition process
I
on a
understand.
house, and then it suddenly changes hands, so.
No, I do understand, and I appreciate that. And even if, I mean, if you proceed with the demolition with the bids, I mean, it's still a month or two out, I presume?
Well,
We've already bid it, haven't we, Dave? Yeah, I wish our city inspector were here tonight, but.
I thought the last time you were here, we agreed not to bid it, and it was by accident that it was put on the bid list.
Oh, is that right?
So,
Okay.
The agreement was, he was gonna, 60 days to prove it. We didn't go out to bid till the end of January. He did not make that meeting. So we told him we were not taking it off the condemnation. We were gonna bid it. And I think you guys agreed to, if he could show progress, that's when we came and requested to go out for bids. He was unable to make it. We have a bid, but
Right.
that bid comes back, we can pull it off if that's how you
Sure.
guys
Of course.
want to do it.
If somebody's eager to remodel one of our old homes, I hate to get in their way.
Well, that's what Don's frustration is. We
Yeah.
haven't seen any progress, just a little work in the yard.
But it has been pretty ugly weather-wise.
It has.
I haven't gotten anything done at any of my properties in the last 60 days.
So, but that's why we offered him to speak to you guys and let you guys work it out.
You know, I do appreciate the position you're in, and I think if it was more of a borderline house, I would say, you know, well, why don't you just do what you need to do? But, I mean, I think it's a house worth saving.
I guess I don't see any reason not to give him more time. He's done this before. He certainly sells himself as knowing what he's doing. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but there's no big rush to bring this one down.
no. It does look solid, and if he's willing to do it, of course, it's gonna be more value.
The city will buy you a new ADA ramp to get up to that door
Yeah.
too, by the way. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Fixes cross slope.
Wow. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you feel like the house can be saved and we can save a house and get someone to live in it and put it back on the tax rolls, that's a plus for us. So basically, you're just asking, you're going to work with us and give us some type of a
Ye-
timeline as when these improvements are going to
Yes,
start.
and I'm sorry that I haven't made
being made.
more progress. I mean, I wish there was more progress made. It's,
Right, right. Okay. Okay, great. I'm glad to hear
and
that.
as far as the last meeting goes, I guess I was a little bit confused as to, I was in town on Tuesday before the meeting, and I visited with Dave in his office on Tuesday, and he said, well, there's a meeting Thursday. Well, the weather that day, that particular day, I said, well, if there's not, I didn't have any, essentially, more news to tell, what I told to Dave, and he said, well, he would let it know. And so I said, well, I'll be sure to be at the next meeting, which was today, which is why I'm here. Don, excuse me. Don Dave.
Hi.
Excuse me.
I appreciate that. I just get, personally, I'm not speaking for the other two, but I don't like seeing these come back over and over and over again.
I understand.
So if we don't see some progress in 90 days, I'm going to say,
I appreciate
let's take
that.
her down.
I agree with you. I understand.
Yeah, as long as you know, we'll
Right.
have good faith if you,
Yeah.
in turn, it works
Sure.
back and forth. And as long as we're going to offer it and you continue to show progress, you know, we'll be happy. But if it turns out that it doesn't happen, then
No, I understand and
we're
I
gonna
agree.
move on.
And I have a few other buildings, so I want to have a good relationship with Dave and Don. You know, because I'm going to be working with them on other things as well.
Great.
Yeah, since November, we've had really bad weather, temperature-wise, to work outside or inside. It limits the material you can do and move around.
It's true. There's more coming this weekend.
It's still Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then if, okay, make sure I understood this right. This has gone out for bid, is that correct?
Yes, but we haven't brought the bids back, so we'll just pull it.
Okay.
Yeah, and when we sent it out, the bidders understood that this one may get pulled.
May get pulled, okay. Gentlemen, anything else?
No, I'd make a motion that we remove 606 Fountain Street from demolition.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Do you want those papers?
There you go. That one. Oh. There you go. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Be careful driving back tonight.
Yes. Okay, next, item F. Consider authorizing city staff to notify the owner of 2012 North 10th Street that the city will seek bids for demolition if a timeline is not received within 30 days and work is resumed.
This house has been on the condemnation list since, I believe, 2012, and we made it a long ways, gentlemen. But for the last 2 years, we just have had no progress. Don is just frustrated, and he's just asking you we cannot get no response. It's just stuck.
Do we know where the owner is now? I mean, are we in touch with him?
We attempt. Last real contact we've had has been about a year ago. But he's in town occasionally.
Is he? Oh.
Yeah.
well.
He has several other rental properties in town. He has a gentleman that takes care of him. We just can't get any progress. So we're just asking you, I mean, we have a policy we kind of follow. Don just feels very frustrated.
I can see. I'm frustrated. I
it's
think
not-
my very first meeting when we discussed condemnations, this was on it.
Yeah.
Years ago now, and
It's not that far from being completed.
I know it looks like you could get a crew in there in a couple days and have people
Yes.
living in it.
Yeah, and it's just sitting there, and unfortunately, the longer it sits, the more the roof's going to come, the aluminum siding's going to fall down.
Yeah, but it's certainly
So,
not dangerous.
We're just asking for some direction from you guys.
We could legalize fireworks being shot off in the front yard of that one.
You know if the taxes are being currently paid on it?
I do not know. Have not checked that. If what we could look at. We're just asking, give us 30 days. Let us diligently try to get a hold of him. See if we can get him to get in front of you guys. Or
I appreciate Jeff's question. If he's paying taxes on it, it's not a blight. It's not.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think it's an
That's-
ugly house. It's very attractive.
The,
so.
the other problem we've had is the environmental outside grass during the summer. It doesn't get cut.
right. Yeah, we do have
We don't keep that up.
environmental.
It looks nice in that photo, but
Yeah.
in the summertime, it gets
Right.
really
We
tall
have some
grass.
issues, and the neighbors have concerns.
The house definitely isn't dangerous and unsafe. So, it's almost like just wait till it gets that way and,
Yeah, it's just
we're-
it's just stuck in condemnation. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
stuck.
just-
Yeah, it looks.
Condemnation limbo.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what the inside's like, but.
It's not bad.
No,
Go peek in the windows. It looks like it's about ready to move
So-
in.
on Don had mentioned that he hadn't met the owner that was supposed to meet with him May 5th, but yet on his
No, we
inspection
contacted
for,
this last November. We've tried just recently. November and February, we've went through all of the houses we have timelines on or on condemnation. We've tried to make contact, and he fails to either contact Don. We know he gets the letters. The letters do not return to us, so we know they're receiving the letters. We're just trying to make contact, and
but on the inspection report, it says that he failed to show up for the May 5th,
yeah,
2017.
that was the last one I think I could find, because I wanted to put something in there
Yeah.
where Don had been there.
But the inspection form was dated, that it was, I took it that the inspection was made May 5th. Then how can you, if you can't get in the residence Well, because the owner's not there, how do you do the inspection?
I know, and like I said, need Don here. It is close. And Gary can probably remember back, because there was a time when Mr. Hounson was actively working on it, and we were close to taking it out. I think it was a meeting, and then we just kind of hit this stalemate. I mean, it is so close inside Leonard. Just some few
I know.
items in the kitchen, a couple.
I've looked through the windows.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what.
So
We're just
was the
frustrated.
inspection form really done the 5th, or was that just noting that he was there?
That I just copied the last one I had and sent to you.
Because if-
without Don here to tell you.
Yeah, because if,
You know,
if
Don's
the owner's not there to open it,
right.
then.
Well, we do have the property manager, and
Oh. So
Don
the
does
property
visit with
manager-
him occasionally, and but Don can relay more than that.
Yeah.
It's just Don. It's been a long time since we've had any contact with him. We've gone through all of our lists, just trying to keep everything active and going, and this house just sits there. At a meeting Craig had the other day, we had some citizens bring it up to us. What are you going to do about this house? I mean,
Maybe they'd be interested in buying it then, since they're
that's
concerned.
yeah, well, I don't think he wants to sell it. Truthfully, I think there have been offers made, and
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we need to keep bothering with the wait till it is, if he's paying taxes on it.
just wait till it becomes a blight, and then
Why don't you let me see what the status of taxes are? For all we know, it could be in the tax sale this year. And then there'd be a new owner that might do something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I'll buy it.
yeah.
I mean, chances are he's paying the taxes because he's pretty well fixed it up.
Is he the sole owner of the house?
believe it's
Wasn't
under
there a
him.
Mrs. Hanson at one time?
It's him and his wife, I believe.
Okay, so there still is a Mrs. Hanson?
I don't
As far
know
as you
what
know, or I just, okay,
they live in different. We send everything to him, I
Okay.
believe.
okay, just never know. Yeah, it doesn't need much to be turned and
Yeah,
lived in. Yeah, it's a shame that it's,
yeah.
that he's not finished it, or he's not just put it up for sale as is and gotten rid of the property and let someone else finish it.
Okay. Well, you guys gave us some good direction. We'll work with Jeff, and if we get something, we'll bring it back to you and see what you want to do.
That sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay,
Thank you.
agreeable
you.
to me, thank you. Okay, so what do we got next? Okay, G, consider setting the date of April 25th, 2019 at 5:30 PM for a public hearing to consider condemnation of a fire-damaged property located at 517 West Chestnut Street. Dave again.
Mayor, just the other night, this house was involved in a structure fire. It was fully involved. It is pretty much gutted on the inside. We are working with the owners of it. They're in the process of getting it boarded up. They are aware that we're starting the process. I do not believe any of them are here tonight, but they are aware of, and I think their intentions are to, I don't know if they have the finances to remove it or if it'll end up being put on us. We're still figuring all that out, so.
Okay. Open it up for a public hearing. Is there, there's a representative of?
It's not,
We're setting a date.
we're setting the
Setting
date.
it, excuse me, okay. So,
It's not dangerous right now, it's not ready to collapse?
No, it is not dangerous, and that's what we instructed them. If they can get the first floor and the doors all boarded up, we can make it till we can get it taken out.
But we could have the city crews take it down tomorrow, too.
Yeah.
what's the percentage of damage to the structure?
It's inside, it's totally gutted. I mean, it took the whole first floor was fully involved. I believe there is 2 bedrooms upstairs that did not have substantial damage, but otherwise there's substantial damage upstairs. It's pretty much gutted.
Okay, gentlemen, any other questions?
I'd like to move forward as fast as possible on this one myself. nobody's going to save that house. So I'd say let's set the public hearing ASAP.
Well, we got to have notice set, by statute, since
Right.
none of the structure is actually leaning on the outside, or it's not in,
Loaded.
really bound, and if they board it up,
Right. So
we
some
need
kid
to
doesn't walk
proceed
in there and
with,
fall through the floor.
we need to proceed with the public hearing.
Yep.
But I think we owe them, if they secure it and they want to secure somebody to remove it, it would be cheaper than us going through and putting it on tax or dealing with that, so.
Absolutely.
If
The
they're,
actual owner lives out of town, but his brother, I believe, lives in town. That's
Yeah.
kind of trying to take care of things. That we're still trying to figure out. We haven't got a clear answer on that yet.
Wasn't insured, there won't be the debris removal coverage and the out-of-pocket
Yeah.
motion, so you could approach the owner, see if he just give consent to that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? Right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to set the date of April 25th, 2019 at 5:30 for a public hearing to consider condemnation of the structure located at 517 West Chestnut Street.
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item H, consider adopting a resolution to place a question on the ballot to increase the number of commissioners to be elected at large or by district.
I requested that we put this back on the agenda again, just because it seemed like it maybe had fallen through the cracks. I wasn't thinking we would take action tonight, but I would like to resume the discussions. We talked about maybe having some public meetings. I know I said this before, but I was on city commission with 5 members, and I was on a city commission now with 3 members, and 5 members is just vastly easier, I think, to operate, and there's precedent for that. There's only a handful of cities in the whole state that have 3 commissioners. Everybody else has more. So I would just like to keep moving forward, not lose track of this. I'd like to see it on the November ballot myself, one way or another.
Yeah, I think my thought too was we were going to discuss it, and with our extra meeting each month, we could maybe in May have a forum that'll give us enough time to get word out, let the public know, and give them the opportunity to share to us. And also then look, we got the 2 options of commissioners being at large from community or district, and we could maybe get a district map or ward map laid out to look at what that would entail. Maybe start by looking at the voter registration map to see how it's divided up, and it'd give us more time to do that, get some information for publication, the options and how a 5-member commission would be elected or processed, and even the league had mentioned something about the uniqueness, definitely the 3-member, but it seems like the prevalence type of governing body that are established for cities of this size. So get some input from some of the records that they have. The governing body handbook, it just vaguely discusses some of it, but maybe we get a little more detail.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yep. I'm in agreement with that. Yes.
I called the county clerk because I knew this was on the agenda.
Right.
And because wanted to find out what the deadline would be for you to take action to get it on the November ballot. And the county clerk needs a clear 90 days. There's some publication requirements, and you have to take action. And to get it on a ballot, it would be by a resolution. And I think to be safe, to allow 120 days just to be safe, would be like the July 11th meeting. That's the first Thursday in July. So if you chose to do it, I would just recommend you try and adopt the resolution by July 11th. And the resolution is real simple. The ballot question would be, should the number of commissioners of the City of Independence be increased from 3 to 5 to be elected in either at district or at large?
Great.
Okay.
And then the rest of it can be by ordinance, I believe, as far as the staggered, terms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this can be for later discussion, but the issue you get into with district, that has to be population based. You can't just,
Wing it.
say this looks good.
You draw your own district up.
Constitutionally, it'd have to be by
Gerrymandering.
population. So.
Gerrymandering is not a good idea?
Well, and I don't know how that works. I know the federal government has to look at it every so many years. And it's,
Okay, I think that's a good idea. I think we need more conversation about it, and we need to get the public involved to see what their feelings are on this. Okay, so that actually just gives us a handful of months if we're going to meet a July 11th deadline. So,
that's not a drop dead deadline. You could probably go to the second meeting.
okay,
No reason to delay, though.
We want to keep the county clerk happy.
that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So then, do you want to, you mentioned the meeting in May, do you want to kind of shoot for that, or you want to shoot for something in April, or about the public forums you were
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about?
April. Yeah, I was thinking for the April.
You have to give it a little more
Yeah.
time to. All
I
right.
jumped through March.
Do you want that meeting at 5:30 though, rather
Yeah.
than 9 AM?
Right.
Okay, so the third Wednesday in April at 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We can move on past this then.
Yes.
Okay. We are looking at reports. City board list.
I provided the list of the city boards that you guys had asked for, and also, I didn't get any applications for the planning commission or the tree board this last time, so I'm gonna reopen those. And then the electrical board, has been open to until March 22nd, I believe it was. It was in the last AR, so.
Planning and tree board.
Yeah, the inside city planning commission spot, and then the tree board, we still have 2 or 3 openings on that one. So I will reopen in those, and then electrical board's
Okay.
already been opened up.
On the housing authority, Kelly Tushman, is she still here? And she changed
I don't
jobs.
know if April's here. She would maybe know that. I don't know the answer to
here.
that question.
I have requested a letter of resignation and have not received it.
Okay.
Okay. And we've gotten the city rec commission minutes for February 20, 2019. You've had a chance to look at. And moving along, we are to city manager's comments.
I do have a comment. I think it was last meeting or meeting before that, Commissioner Hogsett mentioned the sales tax for January, and it was up, and was pleased with that. As you know, the chamber and the city and Main Street and all the business in town, we've always been talking, shop locally, shop locally. Well, I think it's paying fruits. I think it's working. So on 2 fronts, thank to all the patrons that come and shop in Independence, either in the downtown area or other retail areas of the city. The second month was up even more than January. February was up, as you know. So we're up 6.6% for the year. Now, let's hope that trend continues. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it is a good sign. And I just want to say thanks and to all the shoppers and the out-of-town shoppers that now come downtown, come to Independence to shop. Because it certainly is an indication when we see numbers like this that we are getting shoppers from out of the area, out of the city. Just looking at the per capita sales, our population is going down, but the per capita spending is going up. So it's a good indication. And thanks to the people who invest in Independence, bring new businesses to attract shoppers. Just want to say thanks. Acknowledge sales tax is up.
Great. Great to hear. All right, Commissioner comments, gentlemen.
Nothing for me, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kaflish?
Neighborhood revitalization plans. We have some that expired in, I think, July 2018. I wonder if we could have those on our next agenda to just start discussing what they were, familiarize.
Yeah, I can do a report on that. I'm actually working on modifying the boundaries. We've had some requests to enlarge those boundaries, and I actually have all the older ones. I have all of them on a map, and then we're looking at expanding those boundaries. So there are 3 that are expired. So that I have been working on that. I just haven't got it completed.
Since they were expired so long ago, for the next meeting, if you're going to expand the boundaries, at least have that to show us what you're talking about.
Okay.
And look, because I know then you have to start going back and identifying all the property that's now going to be included into those.
Right.
It's quite a lengthy
It
process. And right now, with it expired, anybody wanting to do anything in that area, they're not eligible for
Correct.
tax breaks. So if you could show us what you had, it just kind of bring us up
I can
to
do
date.
that and then bring you a proposed area we're looking at, and if that works for you, then I'll move forward with the other steps.
Yeah,
If that
okay.
works for you.
Be great. The review of the bids for the 1916 City Hall, when will the architect have those available to present to us?
Excuse me, I have not heard yet when they'll be ready. I did get a call, though, from Vance Kelly today that I left a message. I haven't heard the message, but I had to leave town, as you know, so I haven't had a chance to even listen to that message. So he may be calling about that, but I haven't heard anything directly from Ian or Vance. I think they talked about bringing that back with the proposal at the same time, their proposal for Phase 2.
Yeah, because generally the contractor's required to guarantee his bid for 30 days. In the next commission meeting, we're going to be pretty close to the limit of that 30 days.
Yeah,
So-
I'd love, like I say, I got a call, or Vance got a call into me, and so we'll touch base on that.
The contract for construction at the water treatment plant, did we authorize signing it, or what's the status on that? The electrical work?
I thought we signed that. I thought we moved, we noticed proceed and.
December 27th.
But we awarded it, but they didn't have the written contract to sign yet, did they? I know we told them that we wanted to award it to Kelly Electric, but the executed contract where the contractor has his bonds and his insurance certificate and all that submitted, have you seen that yet?
I don't sign the contract, so I don't.
Yeah, do you know if the engineer should have had all that and submitted to us for review and signing?
Yeah, I thought it was, they were proceeding with the work. I thought I will have to check. I thought we'd done everything.
As far as I know, it's been signed and everything's been executed.
Because the bond, and the contractor wouldn't have got his bond and his insurance until we authorized awarding the contract. So it couldn't have all been in one night. So he should have gone back. PEC's engineer should have got with Kelly Electric and authorized them to prepare the documents, and they prepare a contract, owner-contractor agreement, but then they send to us to allow the contractor to start work.
I'll have to check to make sure exactly where.
We received an update today. It says the notice to proceed was issued dated February 5th, 2019. Per the agreement, the contracted date of substantial completion is December 2nd, 2019, and the contracted date of final completion is January 1st, 2020. Submittals are being reviewed as they are provided by Kelly Electric. Approved submittals will be sent to the city for your records. Monthly progress meetings will begin in March. The contractor is responsible for coordinating and administering these meetings. Work at the site is expected to begin the week of March 4th.
Okay. Can you check to make sure we got copies of the contract and the bonds for our records? Peter Pan Road Extension, you heard back from the engineer on actual bid date and finaling those documents?
No.
Yeah, we're getting close to,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a
Well, I
time
mean, they
that-
said March, they say
Yeah.
in March, and they haven't
I
changed.
know. Usually, we want it bid earlier so we can hit the
Get
spring
better.
start.
And
And I had, Kelly sent us the follow-up email on the closeout of the Peter Pan Road project. On the ADA work, we had some additional work for the church and the school district. The agreement hadn't been signed with the church. There's going to be some revision. And has the agreement for the school district been prepared for their work too, like the church?
I've asked Dave that question. I know where, I haven't seen anything back from the church either, but the school district.
We're getting ready to meet with the contractor soon. We'll get all that.
But this, I
prepared.
mean, we had an agreement for the money that the church was going to pay and the
Right.
school district.
And
Those
Yeah.
two agreements,
yeah,
not with
we'll
the
get those.
contractor.
The
We
church
haven't got-
wanted Sean to come out and visit with the church board, and
Okay.
so we're going to do that, and we'll get you the one on the school.
Yeah, each one will need
Yep.
an
We'll
agreement.
make sure we get those to you.
Kind of, after making the notes and looking at the different projects, what one of the state architects did that managed like 7 facilities, he developed a spreadsheet for the projects. And you can list all the projects that we have in the various stages, even in planning stage, where we're applying for a grant from KDOT, and then it continues on so that, you know, we could have one list to look at and we would know the status of when a project closes out. The contract initiated, we've received the contract is in process of being written, punch list, change order, you know, all this. It really makes it handy and it's easier to keep track, you know, going back through some of the projects we've had and some of the questions on the treasurer's report. It keeps current. It's easier for staff to manage. It's easier for us to know. So when we get a report, we'll be up to date. I thought maybe that might be looked at to see how.
You're right. I mean, I've developed a similar spreadsheet in other cities where I've worked and to follow capital projects specifically, and usually would do it on a quarterly basis as an update. And staff can tell you, I've talked about doing that here. It's
Yeah.
like getting to it, getting it organized. But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I wanted to do this year, moving into the construction season. So I agree.
Yeah, it'd be
Trying to
really,
get that done. It's not
really
that,
easy.
say, the spreadsheet's not that difficult. Now, one of the things we're really taking our time, of course, is the strategic base plan that we're implementing, all these key directives and actions, and that's really taking a lot of our time now. But I agree 100%. That'd be a good way to report back, and that's my goal, to
Yeah.
do that, so I appreciate the comment.
And this kind of comes in line with the strategic plan. It integrates into those
Right.
phases. The last was some projects of Clink and, again, the Peter Pan geometric closeout. I think I got answers later today on those, but that was all I had.
My concern I had one of the people that live in the Whiskey Creek flood area, in the Circle Drive area, they wanted to know what the status was on that hydrology study with.
I didn't get a chance to get my email response back to you, but we had a meeting scheduled with them, and then we had that ice storm up in Kansas City. We actually had to cancel that. So we rescheduled for Wednesday, next Wednesday. They're coming down. They'll walk the creek again. The hydrologist that came before that you met. And so that day, and then we'll have a meeting in the afternoon, and we can give you an update after that.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right, good, because I know she will ask me again what the status is of that, so. All right, that's all I had for that. Public concerns, anyone signed up to speak? No, okay. And we are up to executive session, and it concerns personal matters of a non-elected personnel. I move that we recess for an executive session for discussion of an employee's performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception, KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume at, how much time are we looking at?
Start with 20 minutes. Just go 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock? Okay, we will resume at 8 o'clock.
Second might be enough.
Pardon, I was getting ready to do that, yeah.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
We're all ready to
No, I was
go.
getting ready to say that.
Sorry.
Okay, no, you're okay. I hadn't forgotten, I was just slow getting it out. That's all. It's 8 o'clock. We are back in session. No action taken. And we're ready for an adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
All right. Stuff to sign?